right, hey everybody, welcome back. Today we were talking about the silly Google sit-in and some lessons learned. I'm not going to cover all the details. It's pretty straightforward. I'm sure you've seen the details by now, but just had some thoughts wanted to share about what we can take from that kind of silly episode at Google and how they handle it, which was a little bit surprising, but let's get into it. First is when you look at the people that were involved, I haven't seen reporting on everybody's age, but they certainly look like the younger crowd at Google. Wall Street Journal quoted a guy here who's 23, been at the company for 2 whole years. Two years. So he's not like a well-seasoned veteran of the company, but he talked about how talking about the old days, how it was a fun and vibrant place where you're allowed to express yourself. He's been there all of 2 years. He's 23. I kind of feel bad for some of these folks. They're young and their leaders in college have let them down, and then that they weren't leaders. They basically placated to their emotions and allowed them to act and do things that were, quite frankly, unacceptable, certainly in a business environment, which Google has stated. And I just want to talk for a second about what is leadership. It's a little bit hard to define, but it's really about being able to influence a team in order to, in the business context, to get the team to drive towards a business objective. And I think we've got a leadership shortage or a crisis of leadership in business, and that we've got leaders who are not leading the team, they're really being led by the team. And I think you see that for a variety of reasons. One is social media. I think leaders feel that they are at risk of looking a certain way if social media is used against them. And I think they worry about their younger workers having the ability to use that tool against them. I think also a lot of these companies are led by people who weren't founders and don't have the leverage or the political capital to push back against this, what they seem as a kind of a monoculture coming their way, which I don't think is accurate, but I think it causes them to or shy away from being an actual leader. So I think there's some lessons there. Also, I would point out, these people got fired within 48 hours or so. Companies like Google, certainly in the tech space, have a lot more workers than they actually need. If you look at what Elon did at Twitter, something like 60, 70% laid off and the company didn't miss a beat. I think a lot of these companies have a lot more people than they actually need. And there's a few reasons for that. One is they've got to do something with these outrageous earnings. If they actually operated as lean as they possibly could, they would be making so much money that the political powers in the country would be coming after them. So I think they use employees' headcount as a lever to control earnings. When they need earnings, they can lay off some people. And I think what you have in that situation is a lot of people who have jobs that are not required. And I think these people who got fired have learned a lesson. And I think it's a hard one, but it's something you're going to learn as you grow up. Next, I would talk about one of the statements made by Google. And this wasn't the only thing they mentioned, but they talked about their behavior being unacceptable, disruptive, and made coworkers feel threatened. And I'm just kind of honing in on that feel threatened. We see so much language in business and in culture today about emotions. Feeling threatened is a feeling. That's all it is. It's not a fact. It's not something you can put your hand on. It's just a feeling. And it's interesting they said made coworkers feel threatened. They didn't actually say they threatened anybody, which they may or may not have done. I don't know. But it's interesting that they used the word made feel threatened. We spend a lot of time talking about emotions in our culture these days, and it's really difficult to push back against that. We've raised kids to think that their feelings are very important. Social media reinforces that by encouraging people to post what they like, what they love, put hearts on things, stuff like that. I think that's just the culture we live in, and I think you're seeing it here from Google. Next, I talk about, the trends of leaders speaking out. We've seen that for the past few years, CEOs talking about things, and I think we're at the end of that. This is an example where Google's not really taking a position, as far as I know, on this issue. And I don't think you're going to see leaders weighing in on these hot button political issues nearly as much. I remember the CEO of Delta weighing in on the Georgia election legislation. And you don't see that anymore. They took a lot of flack for that. They lost some customers. The Georgia legislature passed laws that negatively impacted their business. Same thing with Disney in Florida. If they're going to wade into the political arena, it's a rough and tumble world. They're going to get pushback. And I think that's pretty obvious. And I think they're seeing the negative impacts from doing that. And I think you're going to see less and less of that going forward. And then lastly, I saw mentioned in an article somewhere, people talking about this puts an end to the idea of bringing your whole self to work, which is one of the most ridiculous phrases. It's just such a fluffy, ridiculous thing to say. But that was never the case. Everybody has personas. They are different people in different settings in order to get by and to live in a society with other people. Bringing your whole self to work is such a narcissistic attitude. I'm coming to work and I'm going to do whatever I want and be whoever I want. And everybody else just has to deal with it. That's ridiculous. And I think you're seeing that when you're working with a group of professionals who have a variety of opinions about a variety of topics, you really just have to focus on the business at hand. So anyways, wanted to share my thoughts on what we could learn from this. I think it's an interesting study and provides an example of leadership, how you can leverage that in your own business. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. If you have any other thoughts, please leave them down in the comments. Thanks.